Oh, this is from the seminar. Oh, yeah. Sam and Pete, everything straightened out.
There's also a link to the agenda. Just wanted to draw attention.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, it is 4:30. Welcome to all of you that have joined us today. I'd like to begin this, as we typically do, standing for the moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I have a roll call, please?
Tom Eggers,
Aye.
Wayne Barahona,
Present.
Brad Hint,
Here.
Ken Snyder,
Here.
Pete Hamill,
Here.
All right. Next item up is the approval of the agenda. Take a motion for that.
So move. Support.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Hint,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Barahona,
Aye.
Hamill,
Then move on to the public forum portion of our meeting. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the council at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Accept the consent agenda. Support. Pick one.
Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hamill,
Aye.
Hint,
Aye.
Barahona,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
All right. Then we move on to new business. The first item up there is the open the public hearing for the Dubach electrical contract for development. Any comments from anyone regarding that? Hearing none, take a motion to close the hearing.
so moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Barahona,
Aye.
Hint, Eggers,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hamill,
And then we have a resolution regarding that, item 6B. Take a motion for that, please.
Move we accept the resolution as written.
support.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hint, Barahona,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Hamill,
All right, then the second public hearing is the hearing for the transfer of the Trilogy lot to the Sheldon Chamber and Development Corporation. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Should have asked this last time, have we had any written comments on
No.
either of these?
No, no.
Okay. All right. Motion to close this hearing.
So moved. Support.
Roll call, please.
Barahona,
Aye.
Hint, Hamill, Snyder,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Then there's a resolution as well for that one.
Move to accept the resolution.
support.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Barahona,
Aye.
Hamill,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Hint, Eggers,
Aye.
All right. Then I would guess there will be discussion on this one. We move on to our discussion about the garbage service. Anything you'd like to get us started with here, Sam?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. So I added a few items to the report. First of all, I made a correction. It's a 5-year extension that's being sought, not a 4. And then there's the update down below that I have linked, and I also made copies for you as well. So I think that forms the basis for discussion of what's being requested.
Okay. Are there comments either one of the haulers want to make at this time? Okay. Okay, very good. Any questions or comments from the council?
So the request for extension, what is driving that in regards to the sale?
Yeah, why don't you come up, Jeff, please?
I think the reason for it is you vote on fire trucks and they're not cheap, so him to buy a new truck, I think that's a reason for why he should get an extension. I mean, you're looking at probably, if you went to a brand new one, probably to over 250,000.
Okay.
I think the reason why I'm requesting another 5 years is just I'm investing a ton of money into buying him out. I gotta get another truck, and I wanna make sure I got a long enough time period to get this stuff paid for and make it work, is why I'm requesting another additional 5 years onto that.
Okay.
So, Mark, if I may follow up with another question. With that 5-year extension, are you asking for the same terms for that 5-year extension as it states today?
Yes, everything the same in the contract as it is right now.
Okay. So with that being said, Sam, what's that look like? Is there graduated expense increases in the current contract that would extend those 5 years? Or maybe, Micah, you can explain that. I'm just trying to get context of what we're being asked to do here.
Well, in terms of the economic terms, under Section 2 of the current contract, there are base rates. There's a fuel surcharge section that has the potential for adjustment, and then there's an annual escalator. And so, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. When you say stays the same, does that mean stays the same in contemplation of the annual escalator provisions and such that I just talked about?
Yeah, it would be 25 cents a year increase. Then the fuel surcharge, that takes care of itself, I think. In the landfill, that if it goes up, then we'll have to do something every August with that, so.
Yes, there is a provision that if the rates of the Northwest Iowa Area Solid Waste Agency increase or decrease in the preceding 12 months, there's the possibility to renegotiate Section 2 and some other provisions. So, yeah, I'll let the document speak for itself, but there are provisions that contemplate changes in the economy and such.
And like in July this year, it's gonna go up $5 a ton, so that's just something to remember too. We got something to look forward to, I guess, so.
The landfill rate you're referring to there?
That's correct, yep.
Yes.
And they got it figured that every dollar it goes up, it's got, the rate should go up 10%.
10 cents.
10 cents, yep, 10 cents per dollar. So that'd be a 50-cent increase, and that's no money in my pocket, that's just the break even with the landfill expense,
Okay.
so.
So with the stipulations that were negotiated on the current contract. You just want to extend them as written for the next 5 years,
Yep,
beyond the current contract.
yes,
That's what you're looking for us.
that's what I'm asking
Approval
for,
on.
yes.
Mike, do you have, maybe you have that there, am I correct in remembering that there are opt-outs or renegotiation, reopeners that are built into this contract?
Yeah, and that's just what we're discussing is under some conditions, primarily to do with landfill rates, either party can request a renegotiation. It's not an automatic change to the terms, it's a request for
Right.
renegotiation.
Yep,
And then, yeah, Mark would want to be sensitive of the timing of when those requests would need to be made.
How long does the current contract go?
The current term goes until July 31, 2027.
It'll be
And
5 years beyond that.
We're talking 9 years.
And then it had a renewal provision where if both agree, could be extended for a further period of 5 years. So in some sense, you're agreeing to the renewal early. As with most contracts, you know, there's the potential that it can be terminated early, either by mutual agreement or under some extreme circumstances, including like an ongoing breach by the hauler.
So is what's motivating your request for this extra 5 years is just the exclusivity? By that you mean you don't want competition coming in, that we would negotiate with another hauler at some point down the road? Is that that's what's driving this?
no, really, it's the finances is what,
I think the understanding there is that this agreement is necessary in order to acquire financing.
To buy equipment.
Okay.
I guess it's to buy, you know, I'm buying his business that they worked 70 years to build up, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not buying it for $20.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, it's a good chunk of money, and then I gotta get some more equipment, so I guess the money is driving that extension, if that makes sense, so.
Mr. Mayor, to your question, and Mark, if you disagree, let me know, but under the current agreement that each hauler has, they're agreeing to a non-exclusive hauler agreement. So if I understand the situation right, and Mark gets an extension, he's not legally buying a monopoly because the city still could have other haulers that have contracts. He's not asking for an exclusive in that sense. I mean, practically speaking, he will be for the time being. Is that consistent with what your understanding is? That even though you would be the only hauler, others could potentially come in?
I guess I'd like a exclusive. I mean, I've done this for not as long as them guys have. I've done it for 18 years, and I feel I proved myself that I can do it. I can do a good job. So I guess it would be nice if I didn't have to worry about anybody coming in.
Well, and just to clarify, this agreement is a non-exclusive
Okay.
agreement. So if we're continuing this, that's a term that continues. You know, obviously you don't have anybody knocking on your door. And I think the city's concern is that the garbage gets picked up. But I just want to make sure everybody understands, per the mayor's question, that this is a non-exclusive agreement.
I'm not sure if you use the term exclusivity or if it's in the document somewhere, but
It
that's...
It's in there as non-exclusive.
He's
Okay.
asking for exclusivity now.
Okay. And so by that, I mean, that to me is in conflict with the non-exclusivity in the current contract. Is it not?
Yes.
I can also see Mark's, I don't know what the business side of it is, but I can see if Mark's gonna go invest in more equipment, if he goes to a lending institution, they could also be driving an extension to this contract, so they know they have a long-term commitment and to loan him the money. I think any business owner has that responsibility, and I think that's why he's asking it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's kind of like collateral,
Yes.
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
I mean, but in a different sense,
Yeah,
so.
but where we're getting, I think we're gonna get hung up on is, you're thinking you're gonna have exclusivity, if you're understanding it as being the only game in town, the contract doesn't state that, but we're renewing that contract, and so therein lies the rub.
Well, I think that it's going to have to be a matter of some trust on both parties' side. Trust that he does the job so that we don't have to go out and look for somebody else, and trust in us that we are respecting him and what he's doing to help continue a business in Sheldon and invest in more equipment and more employees. So I think that kind of, I could see how that's a two-way street there, and I think that, you know, we have the room to work together, that even if the letter of the contract does not exclusively state that there's exclusivity, I think that as long as we are both working towards that end, that won't be something we have to worry about.
Since he has a contract with the city, I don't know what the difference would be. But what if someone wanted to come in with a hardware store? How can, you know?
The hardware store is not
Or
something that
any
is
other
done
thing.
through the city.
Okay, so that's the difference.
Yeah.
That makes the difference in this.
The garbage contract's put out for
It doesn't
bid.
seem to me that it should, because then we're creating monopolies. But I just want to be clear, the difference between
That's
that.
the nature of the beast.
Mark's become a monopoly. That's why you guys can control the price. So they'll never be a monopoly.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Okay.
See, it's a different thing because this is not public or private thing. It's through the city, so I didn't know the difference.
Well, and it's one of those deals, we negotiate the price that the city is willing to pay, and it's contingent upon the hauler to agree to that price. If the hauler does not agree to that price, they walk, we shop, it goes whatever. So that's why we both have skin in the game, being the city and the Gertlers. So there's an area, there's some room for trust and some growth together. I think that, you know, this is a mutually beneficial partnership that will help a Sheldon business and provide quality service for our citizens at a fair price.
Okay, now, that sounds good and it's common sense. Now, we gotta go to the other point, legal. He's looking up something.
Carry on.
You know, I can't go up $5 a month just because I want to buy a lake house. I mean, I'd have to come here and you guys would have to approve it.
Yep.
So.
And that's why
you know, my-
contracts are negotiated, right, Mark?
Right. you know,
That's why we go
my-
through
My
negotiations.
hands are tied for what I can do too.
And that's why I asked you the questions I asked, because you're asking for an extension of a current contract without negotiation. And so that means if we were to grant that, all the stipulations that you last negotiated on would remain in effect for 9 years
I think there is openers in August
for landfill.
and for
Fuel.
other stuff too. Is that right, Micah, or am I wrong on that?
You can request renegotiation of Section 2 in its entirety, which includes the fuel surcharge and the annual escalator. And I think, I'd have to read it more closely, and I think the base fee.
Because I know in the last 18 years, we'd never come up here and ask for more money without the fuel going up or the landfill going up, so.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's not gonna happen, and I don't wanna be bound for the next 9 years at a quarter, just in case.
Right.
You know, look what happened the last couple of years, so,
Right.
but,
And that's why I'm quizzing you as hard as I am on this,
So-
because,
I think there's gotta be.
I mean, if we're gonna open this thing up every year based upon inflationary considerations, The contract allows you to do that already,
Yeah,
okay?
Well, and Brad, I'm gonna put you on the spot. When's the last time the landfill went up?
Probably 2 or 3 years ago.
It's not every year.
3 years.
No.
It was $1 increases. Yeah, it's been $1 increases, but in order to keep our capital improvement funds up, we decided to go up $5 this year.
Right.
And some of that was, we also looked, 3 years ago, we looked back and said, our reserves are good, let's hold off on an increase, and then instead of the little ones, we'll make one bigger one in 3 years. So because we have some more additions in cells that are gonna have to happen out there, yeah.
So it's not gonna go down, right, Brad?
What's that?
It's not gonna go down.
Nothing goes down.
It's gonna stay the same or increase, but.
It's not like
rather-
computer sales, you know, where they go down.
We, but we don't wanna do the 25, 50 cents, which is gonna be at like $1 increments, because
Right.
it's easier for the haulers, because one of the board members, he's the one that figured out what it costs a customer if they go up $1 and it's 10 cents a month.
Right.
Do you feel like, obviously that's a big shock, right? Well, $5 versus $1. Do you feel the $5 increases are done for now?
Don't know. If engineering and costs would go down, probably not, but those are two costs that continually and
There's government regulation, you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah.
One other thing that we're not going to settle here, that we'll probably have to deal with in the near future, and that's, I don't know what your intention is how much you're planning on going to automated equipment or not. We're gonna have to figure out how to deal with that. For instance, we don't have trash cans for recycling that can be picked up automatically. And we've talked about that a number of times over the years, but we've never decided anything.
yeah, that would be one thing I'd certainly vote for, because then I'd use the automated truck for recycling too, so,
Right. That would help you control your labor costs as well, so.
right.
You want any other, are you done, Tom?
Huh?
Were you done?
No, I was gonna say one more thing, thank you. I guess the way it sits and comes across to me is, one, I think we have to first grant Mark the contractual agreement we have with Schwartz first. We have to approve him taking over Schwartz's contract, basically. To me, that's step one. That way then you have our approval to take over his business from that perspective.
That's what I'd like to get out of this meeting today, the okay to go forward.
Right.
Is one thing that
And then as
would be
far
nice
as,
to know.
the second thing is then we need to do is take a look at the extension of that contract beyond 2027 as it states right now. With both contracts now being won through today's action, then we look at the extension and we make sure that the extension is written and fills the needs of both Greif and the city moving forward beyond 2027.
Right.
Is that fair enough to get done today?
Yeah, that's, if I can get a no, yes or no on both them issues, is what I'm after today.
What if you were to just get the yes on the approval of taking over Schwartz's contract today, and our next meeting we were tackle the extension?
The only problem is that he has to start that pretty quickly.
It just puts everything back 2 weeks, I guess. I mean, I don't know, this would be a question for Micah, but if we could get it all done today, then I know where I'm at. So, the Schwartzes they would know where they're at, I would know where I'm at, and we can get to work. So,
What would be the hindrance if we do the first one to get that, and then is there any hindrances?
Yeah, for him, he can't do
No,
it.
for us to pass them both today.
and just talk it out.
See, now, I don't have a problem giving an extension 5 years, but I'd want the fees to go for 4 years, and then we negotiate in 4 years for the next 5 years for the contract of the fee part of it.
But if that,
Because there's a lot of things that are gonna change in 5 years.
right.
You know,
But in that case, the contract today already stipulates that in 2027, there's an automatic renewal clause in there, correct?
yeah, but I don't think we wanna, who wants to renew this contract every year?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying is that the contract today that was negotiated 2 years ago
Yeah,
provides,
a year ago.
goes to 2027, and within that same contract, it has a clause for auto renewal.
I know that, but I'm good with that, but the 5 years out, I think we need to negotiate then the rates.
I think I'd be open to that. I just can't take less than a quarter a year.
Yeah.
I mean, the quarter is a 1% cost of living, right now at the current rate.
And I don't think you want to negotiate every August.
No,
And
No.
have, and I know how the last negotiations have gone, and it's like, I don't want to do that every year.
no, I don't wanna go through that every
You know,
year.
because another thing like Pete talked about was recycling. I hear 50-50 on this container out here. You know, some people wanted it gone, other people wanted to keep it. You know, that's a talking point, you know?
Which would fit in the negotiation.
Yeah. But I don't want to negotiate this thing every year, but if you guys want to, that's fine.
That's not what I'm proposing. All I'm proposing is that we take the contract as it is today for both DeCrife and Schwartz, approve granting DeCrife Schwartz's contract as it stands today, which then gives him the approval from the city to take over that business, that route, okay? And that I guess we as a council understand exactly what we're going to extend for the next 5 years that he's requesting and have that ironed out by the next meeting. And because at this point, if we extend it, then my understanding of that is that we're extending it for what the contract stipulates today. And that's the questions I was asking you, Mark. And if that's what you're asking for, I guess then, as a council, we got to decide whether that's what we're wanting to do.
So is that a fair compromise where we say we continue out the 4-year contract per the rates negotiated here, and then have set the reopener for renegotiation of contract beginning on the beginning or prior to the beginning of the second 5-year term, so that way we both, because I also think that too, we know that our costs aren't going down. We know that cost of living's not going down. We know that inflation's not going down. So that would also would probably be in your best interest as well, just because otherwise you are just pretty much either bound to this for a 9-year period or renegotiating every year, which is something neither you nor I want to do. So I think that's, at first you said that, Brad, I didn't like it. I sat on that a minute. I think that's got some merit. It's kind of the best of both worlds there.
Because in 5 years, this council can completely change, and you could get a different mix of people.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Tom's point about approving the transfer, the sale of the business. I think that's all we can do today, because we don't have a resolution that has to be drafted yet, doesn't it? There's no resolution to vote on in terms of approving the contract beyond 2027. Am I right?
But we still have to give the direction today, otherwise it's still 2
Right.
more weeks later.
But I mean, so we approve the sale, that is a step in that direction, but we don't have extension resolution to vote on at this point.
I think we can give direction from the council to the city attorney and the city manager to draft a 5-year extension with the fees the same for next 4 years and an additional 5 years. That way, Mark knows when he needs to talk to his financial end of it, he's got a commitment from us already that we've directed our staff to start these documents to be approved at the next meeting.
Right.
I think that's probably what would help Mark out a lot to keep between Mark and Jeff, to keep the ball rolling.
You agree with that, Mark, Jeff?
100%.
Okay. Right.
And then it's gonna be a black eye on everybody.
It'll show me as a breach of contract, which I don't want, but I run out my health plan.
Okay.
Sign the papers, get documents on it.
All right, we've had a request from our attorney. He would like to meet privately with you two, with the haulers, all 4 of you, whatever. And so we're going to table that so that he can discuss what he wants to with you, and then you'll come back together and reopen the discussion.
So we need to take a recess?
We could do the other report. The next, you can go
My
to next
concern
item.
is that
Can we do item D?
exactly what he needs.
Yeah.
If we don't give him the 5-year extension, is that gonna prevent him from getting enough equipment to start picking it all up?
Yes.
Okay.
Then we got a problem.
All right, so we're going to table this discussion for the time being, and we can move on then to item D. Take care of that, and then we'll move into the reports. I'm not sure how long it's going to take them, but, so for the time being, we're tabling garbage service, and we're moving into the change order number 1 for the deduct of $17,300. Any comments on that, Todd, that you have? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just it's a deduct for a number of different things that we've made field order changes to.
And the pay estimate.
Yeah, and a pay estimate of $72,281.95.
Yes.
That's for site piping, some piping above ground there, and then fab work in the shop in Sioux Falls. So, foundation's done, site piping's done, it passed pressure testing. I'm hopeful they'll pour the floor pretty soon. I would love to see steel start showing up, but I don't think McGuire got as far this winter as they'd hoped. But they've got time. The contract completion date is not until July of 2024. If the winter would have went really well, I think they could have erected and painted this year, but it's not looking like they'll make that.
So the piping that you're referencing, Todd, is that what you see that comes up and loops around on the base of
Yeah, so that's some
foundation?
of that'll be inside the base of the tower.
Yeah.
That's that piping, but then there's a bunch of buried piping that they completed
That
too.
they tested as well?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? So we need a motion then to approve both the change order and the pay estimate.
I'll make the motion to approve change order 1 and pay estimate 4.
Support?
Support.
Last chance for questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Farahona?
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
Hint?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Hamel?
All right, let's move on to reports then while we're waiting. Anything from you today, Sam? Todd, anything further from you?
Yeah, I've got a few. Thanks, Mayor. First, I'd like to mention that we are still under a voluntary water watch. It's not mandatory restrictions, but we are still under a voluntary. Our well situation right now is slightly better than it was a year ago, so that's a positive, but it almost seems like we're back in a dry cycle. I'm expecting the drought not to go anywhere. We're still considered to be in a severe drought. We did see some recharge in our wells this spring, and we're already seeing that recharge decline. So unless we get a bunch more rains, it could be another tight summer of water usage. Keith
Okay,
and I,
so before you go on, I want to just, because I've had questions from people about that, especially because of the winter kill on their lawns, and they're asking, can we water those? So when we talk about a voluntary water watch,
it is what it
What-
says it is. It's a voluntary water watch. But just like last year, if we see usage spike too high and well levels continue to decline, we will not have a choice but to go to a water warning, which has mandatory restrictions. Last summer, we asked for the voluntary watch. We did see flows kind of level off and decline, and we were able to get by. You know I'm not a big fan of enforcing restrictions if we don't have to. We are still in the business of selling water. And you heard, I've seen it many times in my career. You issue that mandatory, and it takes several years to get your revenues back where they were before. So it's not something I take lightly. Without the recharge that we got this from the winter melt, Keith and I had discussed recommending a mandatory restriction. But because of the recharge we got, we're okay at this point leaving it voluntary.
So I'm Joe Citizen, I come to you and say, I just reseeded my lawn, overseeded my lawn, can I water it?
My answer to them would be is I recommend you don't, because we're under a voluntary water watch, and it would help us a bunch if you didn't. But if you choose to do so, may.
Okay,
But just understand, 2 months from now, I might take your watering privileges away.
I understand.
But after, after the recommended time, like after.
But that's phase one, or
Okay.
that's step
So, yeah.
one of the water warning, and then there's another fear, or another stage that prohibits it completely.
So it is permissible, voluntary is 24/7, or it's between the hours of
Isn't there?
7
You
to
can't water
7?
during the day?
The voluntary doesn't have
Oh, okay.
timeframes
That's my
because
bad.
it's what it is, it's voluntary.
Okay.
So just want to remind people that, I mean, I know, Greg, there's a lot of winter kill out there. My yard has it bad, but so do many others.
Water is a precious commodity.
Yes, it is. And speaking of water, I just wanted to congratulate Sioux Center and Hull. If you guys don't know, they were hooked up to Lewis and Clark on April 4th and April 5th. So they are both receiving Lewis and Clark water now. Went to a ribbon cutting ceremony for both of them yesterday, and happy for them, and can't wait for our day to come.
Were they on schedule, ahead of schedule, behind schedule?
Well, that's a loaded
Well,
question.
in light
So
of
which
the
decade are you
last couple
referring
years.
to?
Obviously behind from way back when, but in the last couple of years.
Yeah, so we had hoped they would be online the previous fall.
Okay.
And it got kicked back to this spring.
Okay.
Yep, and that was all because of equipment, delivery of equipment.
Mhm.
They had pumps in the Beersford pump station that didn't come in, and they had BFE issues as well.
And what's our target?
Best case scenario, October of 2023. That, best case scenario.
Realistic scenario?
Sometime between October of 23 and spring of 24.
And I heard in Hull, you can really tell the difference in the water.
Yeah, so Hull was 100% on Rock Valley Rural Water. They're currently blending about 50% Rock Valley Rural Water and 50% Lewis and Clark.
So that date of October, the best date that you had,
Uh-huh.
that would assume that the water tower out northwest of town will be functional at that time?
Correct.
Okay.
And the pipeline between Hull and Sheldon, 100% installed, pressure tested, disinfected, and meter building that's being constructed at our water site right now,
Yeah.
completed, and the construction project that we have going for the plant expansion completed.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yeah,
You're referring
shouldn't
to-
take much to get that done.
Yeah.
You're referring to the Lewis and Clark that's outside that way,
Yeah.
not, you said northwest. When you said the water tower first, I was picturing the one.
No, I'm
that-
thinking
You're
the-
talking Lewis and Clark
The
tower.
Lewis and Clark World.
3 miles out of town or whatever.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the Lewis and Clark Tower, they're actually gonna start painting pretty soon. They're gonna paint the bowl, or the majority of the bowl, on the ground. And then they're hoping by mid-July to then hoist it up to its final resting place up top. And then they'll finish the fabrication up there and do touch-up painting and whatnot. So they are on schedule, currently on schedule, to be ready by October. I met with the pipeline contractor today, along with some other Lewis and Clark officials, and they're on track to have the pipeline in the ground by the end of August, if things continue to go well. So,
Okay.
yep. So enough of that. The stoplight project on Highway 18 and 34th Avenue. I had posted that the start date was May 15th. The contractor called this week. They're backing it off to May 22. They have promised me that May 22 will be the day, so we're hopeful, we're ready for them to get going. Asphalt overlay around town. We had signed a contract to do some asphalt overlay last week with the anticipation that the contractor was going to show up in August or September. The mills will be here tomorrow. So we hand-delivered some notices and let some people know, but yes, South 9th Avenue, South 10th Avenue, North 7th Avenue between Pine and Oak, 9th Street between 6th and the mid-block of 7th, and 3rd Avenue between Highway 18 and 6th Street will all have the mill on them yet this week, and paver to follow probably a couple weeks after that.
I was gonna say, they're gonna mill it, hopefully they'll come before.
Yeah. They said the paver's coming 2 weeks behind the mill, so I hope that's the
Don't want
case.
it tore up for 2 months.
Yeah, I agree. And then just one other point, we have 2 pre-construction meetings tomorrow for the 7th Avenue storm sewer job that's already been approved and been awarded, and then also the patching job for East 6th and 23rd and East 6th and 26th Avenue. So much more construction will be starting soon. I think both of those want to start right around the 1st of June.
And refresh my memory, what's the timeline for Western Avenue?
So it's currently a federal fiscal 25 project, which means it couldn't start until after October of 24, so it's likely a summer of 25 construction project. And we need to wait for that because we got the $748,000 grant to go along with that. So,
Thank you.
yep.
I want to back up just a little bit. We had a safety meeting with Rise Fest last week. I think they were 44 days out at that point. Wayne pointed out that the highway's going to be closed from Country Club to the 60 interchange.
That's not correct. Not closed. There'll always be two-lane
one
traffic.
lane, excuse me, one lane.
No, 2-lane traffic.
Okay.
2-lane traffic. Maybe I got that wrong when I called you, Wayne, but it's 2-lane traffic.
Yeah, I thought, whatever.
So that week pushback will that have any effect, make it better or worse, or it's just is what it is?
It's not going to be any fun any way you look at it.
Yeah. There is some ulterior plans at the other exits they're talking about to make it
and
work.
that's why I called Wayne, once I knew the start date, is to try to help the team, and he had informed me that the Rise Fest team was meeting and they would talk about traffic control. Yeah, it'll be 2-lane traffic always on Highway 18.
So they're aware of that, the fact, we'll let them know that it's pushed back a week, but it isn't really going to change.
And we've notified the contractor of the Rise Fest weekend date and already asked them to please not have 12-inch drop-offs on the edge of the road that week, if we can help it at all.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
All I have.
All right, Kurt, anything from you? The press release, I think you want to just hit on that press release that's coming out today, but I think that's news that needs to be spread and shared, celebrated.
Yeah, so press release today from a developer out of Des Moines, an LLC out of Des Moines has bought the Old 60 restaurant, formerly known as the Old 60. It's going to be rebranded to a new brand. Kitty Campbell, local Sheldon resident. A lot of us know Kitty. Some experience there. She'll be the GM of the restaurant, and they're doing some renovations to the interior of the building now. And in talking to the developer today, they're thinking 60 to 90 days that they're hoping to have the doors open. So, so pretty exciting project for Sheldon. So
The Big Four?
the Big Four is
The
the
Big
name
Four is back. I can remember as a kid,
Yep.
it was the Big Four, and that was referring to the...
Yeah, so the cool thing with the
elevator.
developer is he spent a lot of time with our historian, Billy Voss, and put a lot of ties into the historic value of both Sheldon and the building itself. So, so the Big Four was, was strategic in nature, and to see some of the other nuances in their marketing, you can see that there's some historic value
Yeah.
there too. So good stuff.
Great news.
Yep.
All right, before we move on with further reports, Micah?
Yeah, thank you for giving us a little bit of time to sort things out. Here's my recommendation now that I understand the transaction that's been negotiated by the haulers between themselves. First, I would suggest that there be a motion to consent to the takeover, if you will, of the Schwartz residential accounts by DeCrife. That would be step one.
Okay?
Step two is I have a resolution sketched out here that I would recommend based on the terms of their transaction and what they need done sooner than later, per which you would resolve to extend the DeCrife solid waste collection agreement to July 31, 32, as memorialized in the written request dated April 27, 23, that was part of the agenda. And that you further resolve that the city attorney draft a simple amendment to be signed by the parties to the DeCrife agreement to memorialize that extension.
All right.
And in regards to the terms of that extension?
As stated in the request, at this time, all other terms of the solid waste collection agreement are to remain the same at this time.
Okay. Any other questions for Micah?
So in your terminology of memorialize, are you stating, what's the definition of that?
Put in writing.
Just put it in writing. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't need to come back then in 2 weeks? Just wrapping it up?
We'll just wrap it up. The haulers recognize that there's the reopener opportunity in August, and some of the ideas that were being floated around here today can be more thoroughly addressed in that context rather than trying to cram this through.
Okay.
But we need to get the garbage picked up, and we need this deal to go through. That's the gist of it.
Anyone else? Anyone entertain motion? Or
Yeah, the first,
motion.
let's do
The
this
first
in two
motion.
steps.
Yep. As Micah has laid out for us.
We approve the sale or the takeover of the accounts.
You make a motion to that?
Okay.
You're seconding that?
Did Wayne,
He would,
he made the motion
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll support
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? I do have one. As far as the dumpster in the parking lot, that was a three-way split before, correct? Who takes over that third? Would that become Mark's responsibility then? Okay, very good.
Is that still going away in December or no?
2024 is when it's scheduled to go away, unless there's a big backlash or something, but yes, the intention is that it goes away. Okay, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Hint.
Aye.
Eggers.
Right.
Farahona.
Aye.
Snyder.
All right.
Hamel.
Aye.
All right, then the second half of this,
Is a resolution, and Angie, I will
Get me wording.
get you the wording. I've got it in writing here, but it's not going to be helpful for me to give you this.
Okay.
But the resolution is to adopt the extension request presented on April 27, 2023, and to further resolve that, or direct me, city attorney, to draft a contractual amendment consistent with that extension request.
okay? Everybody understands that motion?
So will there be an approval process for that?
You're approving that resolution right now. I just gave you the resolution.
No, I'm not talking about the resolution, but what's in the resolution. You're stating that this resolution is going to allow you or require you to go back and rewrite what again?
Well, it would be like we do with other resolutions approving real estate purchase agreements, et cetera. It would authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign it upon drafting, because you're approving it now.
Okay.
And it's not going to change any terms above and beyond the term.
That's there in the existing contract today?
Yes.
Or terminologies?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So does someone make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Support.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Hint. Eggers?
Aye.
Farahona?
Aye.
Hamel? Snyder?
Aye.
I think we got her. Thanks, guys and gals.
I'd like to say from Detroit Disposal, I appreciate you taking your time, and I thank every one of you guys for
You got-
And we want to thank Schwartz for their years of service to the city.
Absolutely.
We'll still be doing some.
Right.
Good.
I was going to say, my trash still needs to get picked up.
Jeff, how many?
Thank you, guys.
Jeff,
Thank
how
you.
many years was it? How many years?
For me, Dad, I think like
52.
over 70.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again.
All right, Scott's not here. Moving on to, back to reports. Anything from you, Ange?
No, thank you.
Micah, anything further from you?
No.
Council to my left? To my right?
No, Mayor?
Okay.
The only thing I wanted to bring up, tomorrow is a National Day of Prayer. We will be holding a prayer service at Living Waters Church. Native son Bob Vanderplatz is coming to speak this year. Always a good speaker, always good to hear from him. So if you are able, we'd love to see you there tomorrow night. That's all I
Motion to
have.
adjourn.
Support?
Roll call, please.
Hamel? Eggers?
Aye.
Farahona?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Hint?